As a young man, I remember trying to figure everything out. I had early church training. I was confirmed Episcopalian, and I was an acolyte. I had the white kata that I wore, and my job was to aid the priest. So I would do the bell ringing. I would bring the priest his water and wine for communion. And then I would listen to the people behind me. I was facing the front of the church. The congregation was behind me, and I would hear them praying their prayers. And they sounded so incredibly bored. I said, how can this be true? How can this have truth to it? I mean, if God is all that God is, how can it be so boring? There should be something exciting about being in that energy. Well, I was a young teenager, so of course I knew everything there was to know. But I did know that there had to be a bigger truth somewhere. And so I looked into many things. Over time, over several years, I went to different denominations. I checked out other belief systems. I studied for years astrology, numerology. I went to a psychic class. I was trying to find the meaning to life, to be all that I came here to be. Someday, I said, I'll make it big. I'll find the perfect job. I'll find the perfect relationship. I'll find a sense of purpose. Someday, I will change my world. Meantime, I was working at jobs I did not like. It wasn't about unmet expectations. My problem was I had unclear expectations. So I was just bumbling along. A friend I met at work invited me to a workshop he had been to some time back. And I went with some trepidation. In the workshop, people talked about things like meditation and positive possibilities. They had processes to help one let go of blame and shame and guilt, to help me get clearer on what I wanted and getting clearer on what I didn't want. Finally, everything would be perfect. Have you ever gone to the perfect workshop, taken the perfect class, read the perfect book? Well, that glow might last a while until you come face to face with your challenges. At the workshop, I was introduced to unity. Oh, the people were so peaceful and happy and creative. I thought I had finally found the magic pill. I had the magical power of affirmations. I knew if I said my affirmations with such energy, often enough, loud enough, with enough fervor, it had to become so. Prosperity was finally on the way. Well, over time, my wonderful affirmations turned into desperate prayer. I went from confusion to helplessness to hopelessness. I was trying to change my world, and it wasn't happening. I felt resentment, anxiety, worry, defeat. I was ready to give up. We've all had to give up from time to time. Something. We say, I can't handle this relationship. The job demands that I'm facing are just so overpowering, I can't do it. I give up trying to make ends meet, or I'll never accomplish this goal or overcome this difficulty. Well, I gave up, but not completely. I wanted some results. I had just had my first understanding of unity. Being a truth student, which is what we call ourselves, it takes work. I tried affirmations and positive thinking. Nothing seemed to work, but I knew it had to. I believed so much that I gave up my job and went out on my own. I failed almost instantly. It seems I just could not change my world. Maybe all this truth stuff was just hot air. I had 7 jobs that year. 7. Nothing worked. I had sales jobs. And I remember calling people and feeling so bad about what I was doing that I would hope that people wouldn't not answer the phone. Finally, I just prayed, if this truth stuff was real, then just show me some proof. I got a call the next day. It was a job finally without a quota, a paycheck not tied to a sales commission. It was part-time, it was minimum pay, and it was temporary, but it was a job. I went in for training, and the training was not all that extensive. My training for the job took 2 hours. And I was surrounded by all of these people who also were taking this job, this minimum training, minimum wage, temporary part-time job. And I had some pretty important jobs in my life. And I looked around and I said to myself, what a bunch of losers. I did. And then I came to a realization. I was one of them. I was right in the middle of it. Wow, very humbling. And then something happened. It was really kind of a miracle. I had a new sudden awareness. I remembered that this job was the answer to prayer. My job was not to judge it. My job was to simply surrender in gratitude. Well, I did that. And I started walking differently. I started acting differently. I started finding the positive in what I was doing and seeing all the other people that I was working with as valued and valuable people. I felt like this job was paying $50,000 a year. This is 35 years ago. $50,000. I thought, boy, I was really going to make it big here. It was just that shift in attitude. See, humility to me is not about humiliation. Humility is about teachability. When we are truly humble, we can learn so much. So I shifted my entire attitude. I had my first promotion in a day and a half. Everybody was making these phone calls, trying to get people to re-enlist in their business phone process. And the manager asked me to be a support to her and do some other types of work where I was off the phones. First promotion in a day and a half. Shortly after this job was to end, I was able to get a full-time job with this subsidiary of AT&T. And I was able to work my way up over 6 months to have 6 promotions. I finally was a project manager. I had 6 supervisors that I was over and a total of 200 employees. And this is just because I had a different attitude. This even helped me prepare for Unity ministry. I had various classes and trainings, all because I surrendered. I had the strength of character to be humble and surrender to the positive possibilities. See, we need to change sometimes. We need to surrender to change. Surrender is the gift that we give ourselves. What do we surrender? Well, we surrender desperation and fear and worry and doubt. We surrender the need to be right. That's a tough one for folks sometimes. Surrender the need to be right. I think that comes from our need to be approved of that we take on as a child. You don't need to be right all the time. You don't need to figure it all out. You can surrender that. You can surrender your insistence. You can surrender your resistance. Never give up. It's not about giving up. It's about giving over. You're giving it over to your higher power, to the Christ within, to God. To whom? To what are you giving it? To life, to the activity of spirit of God within you. So it's not giving up. It's giving over. It's surrendering to a different way of knowing or a higher way of knowing. Now, sometimes this kind of change happens like a slow dawning. Sometimes it's like a cosmic 2x4. We read in the book of Acts, chapter 9, about Saul receiving a higher knowing. He was a good Jewish man, and his job, as he saw it, was to persecute the Christians, the followers of the way. So he was going to Damascus to find them, to take them to jail. When suddenly he was struck down and blinded, and he hears a voice he believes to be Jesus. He is transformed, and he surrenders and follows his instructions. He used to meet a man named Ananias on a street called Straight. And that's still a main street in Damascus. Ananias means literally compassion of Jehovah. Ananias laid his hands on him, and scales fell from his eyes, and he could see again. His surrender brought him to transformation. See, there's always a different way of looking at things. There's always a higher knowing. Sometimes we have to give up our insistence that we are right, or our resistance to change, and surrender with trust and faith that even if we cannot see it, all things are working together for good. We read that in Romans 8:28. All things work together for good for those who love God, who are called according to God's purpose. And our purpose is simply to express as much of God as we can. We do that through our kindness, our compassion, our creativity, and our strength. All things are working together for good. We let go of fear, of worry, of blame, of shame, of guilt. And we patiently trust that the universe is conspiring to support us. We surrender to our good. The strength of surrender is in applying the tools we already have: positive expectation and patience and faith, prayer, meditation, mindfulness. Surrender brings about peace and knowing, guidance and healing. There is a spiritual strength in surrender. Many years ago, shortly after becoming a minister, my wife, Kathy, needed to have an operation. She needed to have a gallbladder removed. We didn't have any insurance. And so we didn't know what we were going to do. We shopped around. I tried to find if there was some place that had a sale on gallbladder operations. You know, what is your current price? Do you have any specials going on? I came home from work one day, and Kathy was at the phone book, tears in her eyes, feeling hopeless. I picked up the phone book. I said, we're going to figure this out. I looked through, and I found doctors. I found one whose name just sounded like something right out of the Bible. His name was Paul James. I think he's still a minister in the area. We called him and we told him what our story was. He said, well, come on in, we'll talk. And he said, you know, this is a teaching hospital, and I've got somebody who is about to hang up their shingle to go out and be a doctor full-time in their own practice. And he's done this operation that you're needing hundreds of times. I will be in the operating room with him. If you will let him do this operation, I think we can save you some money. And so we said, okay. We knew that whatever we had to do, we had to do. If it took us 20 years to pay it off, so be it. We had to step forward in strength and in faith. He said, okay, fill this piece of paper out. I'm going to go make a phone call. I'll be right back. We filled out the paper. He looked at that. He says, okay, I need a check for $25 for this application fee. Fine, we gave him the check. He said, that's it. I said, what do you mean that's it? Well, your operation is covered. Your stay in the hospital is covered. The follow-up visit is covered. The doctor's costs are covered, all for $25. It was a miracle, but it was in the strength of surrender that this happened. It's amazing when you truly let go and let God, what you can find, what you can see happening in your life. I want to tell you one more story about surrender. This is a true story. It was amazing. I was a new minister, and I was working at one of the largest Unity churches in the world. It was Unity Church of Christianity, Houston, Texas. They had maybe 1,500 people coming over 4 different services. Well, when I got hired, the senior minister, Reverend Howard Caesar, told me that my job was primarily to be teaching and counseling, and don't be expecting to be doing Sunday services. Well, then he gave me a try, and he let me do service number 4, which was at 12:45. So they had a 9, 10:30, they had an 8 o'clock, a 9:30, a 10:30, and a 12:45, something like that. 4 different services. The 12:45 had the smallest number of people coming. And, you know, at 12:45, the people who are coming to a service at 12:45 generally fall into 2 categories. They either were up way late last night because they slept in and didn't make it till 12:45, or they just got back from lunch. Either way, they're half asleep. So my job was to give a lesson that would rouse them up, keep them going. It was a good training. Evidently, I was doing well enough that after several months, the senior minister, Reverend Howard, was going out of town, and he wanted me to do all 4 services on that particular Sunday. What a thrill that was. He had faith in me. I needed to have faith in myself that I could carry this off. It was so important for me to succeed. I studied, I worked hard, I got my lesson down, I was ready to go. And then Saturday night, before that Sunday morning, I got food poisoning. Ever had food poisoning? It is not a delight. I was on my knees for all the wrong reasons. I felt so sick. I was so sick. In fact, I remember I was worried that this might kill me. And then I was worried that it might not. The question I kept asking over and over again was, why me and why now? Why me and why now? This is such an important time for me, for my whole career. Why me and why now? And then boom, I had a sudden awareness. I had to surrender. The question was not why me and why now. I mean, if God somehow took some form and came to me while I was in the bathroom being sick and said, Dan, here is why you and why now. It wouldn't have made me feel any better. I was asking the wrong question. I think we all do that from time to time. We ask the wrong question. The question is not why me, why now, why is this happening? That's not the question to ask in life. The question to ask is simple. What is mine to do? What is mine to do today? What is mine to do this month, this year? What is mine to do in this relationship, in this work, in this volunteer activity? What is mine to do? I had that sudden realization and I asked that question, what is mine to do? And I got an answer almost immediately. It was almost like the voice of God. I was told to lay down on my bed and put a cold, wet washcloth across my chest and across my forehead. I fell asleep almost instantly. And I got up the next day and I was fully charged. I was ready to go. And I had one of the best Sunday lessons I'd ever had. It's amazing when we're facing a challenge, if we can just release our victim mentality, it's not why me, why now? It's what is mine to do? Simply surrender. Have the strength to ask the right question. What is mine to do? Surrender, but never give up. Look for your answers with patience and faith and positive expectation and strength of character, strength of purpose. Surrender your desperation. Surrender your fear. Surrender your worry, your doubt. Surrender the need to be right. Surrender the need to figure it all out before you step forth. Surrender your insistence. Surrender your resistance. Surrender, but never give up. And you will change your world. God bless you.